Hey guys, welcome to the Legacy Podcast. Today we're sitting down with Jenny Gaddy, who owns the ATLYSS Food Collective here in Charleston, South Carolina. If you missed the episode from last week, we talked all about her entrepreneurial journey and how all these travels around the world and different jobs and careers that she's had have culminated into her opening up this food service business, which does a lot of, obviously she has the physical location today, but it started out with a lot of food delivery services, and she has a commercial kitchen that has essentially turned into a real estate play and a lot of cool stuff that we're going to get into this week. But make sure you check out the podcast last week about her entrepreneurial journey and a lot of the lessons learned along the way. And then this week we're going to talk about, learn about this physical location, what was the impetus of opening up a physical location, learn a little bit about her commercial kitchen and how that real estate play has played out for her, and I don't know, dive into the menu, dive into some of the food, where they're getting it, all the sustainability side of things in her business and how it's created a really strong culture and following in her brand. And so I'm excited to sit down with Jenny again and learn about all those different things that she's got going on. All right, so Jenny, last episode we talked all about your entrepreneurial journey, which is awesome. If you guys didn't catch that episode, go back and watch that. But you don't have to watch that in order to watch this one also, so don't sweat that. But in this part 2, I want to learn a little bit more about, like, you had a successful catering business. Why did we open up a physical location? I want to talk a little bit about Charleston Commercial Kitchen, which is kind of it's a commercial kitchen, kind of like we were talking offline, like a salon lofts where many different businesses or business owners are catering, want access to these shared resources without having the overhead and that side of things. And you own the actual real estate, which is a really cool position to be in. And you can utilize, obviously, the kitchen yourself. So I want to talk about that. And then I want to do a tour. And then I want to know about what does the future look like. All right? So let's dive in. Why open the physical location? To me, as a business owner, if somebody's like, let's go open up a restaurant, that's always one of those, hey, I eat at a restaurant, I can go open a restaurant. They're two very different things, you know?
Yeah.
And so if you had, and from what I know about the restaurant industry, is like the catering side is really where a lot of the money is made. Low overhead, you don't have to clean a restaurant and have people come in and all this other stuff. You don't need as much space. So like, what was the driver to open up a physical location?
Well, it's funny because I never wanted to. After working in restaurants, I was like, I never want to have a brick and mortar. But then Lauren Vega, who worked with ATLYSS for a really long time, we were discussing ways to pivot and like new avenues, and we'd had a lot of people like wanting to have a space where they could just come and see us and come grab stuff if they weren't home on Sunday. So I had actually looked at the space, I think it was 3 years ago, and the area just wasn't developed yet enough. The space hadn't been built out at all, and I did not want to put in that overhead to build it out. Because I think that's one of the most daunting things to, especially a new restaurant, to open and to say, wow, before we even open the doors, we're in the red like $150K.
Yeah, it's going to take me years in order to get out of this or whatever. So, so what has changed I mean, obviously there's a lot of buildings, there's a lot of apartments and stuff that have come up on Upper Meeting Street now, or kind of like in the middle of Meeting Street actually. But all these big apartments, which did not exist a few years ago, has brought the people now where this area is kind of growing.
Yeah. And the space had been built out, so it was just the aesthetic of it was the only investment that we had to put in.
It was like a vanilla box?
No, there was a lot of things were here. It was just, there was men that had designed it before. And
I do not take offense to that. I am not a good designer.
There's some men fantastic at it, but the space just did not have, like, as I said, I went to school in the last episode, I went to school for graphic design. So art and the aesthetic of something is extremely important to me. And I think it's what makes a space like flourish or not. You can
it
have
gives you a certain vibe. It gives you a certain sense or feeling as you're in that space. You know, like
like real estate, you know that, like 100%. If you go into selling a home and you don't stage it or do anything, and you just walk people through, and they're, the person that lived there was like a hoarder or whatever. It could be the most beautiful home or the greatest deal, but people, they probably won't see it.
Well, I mean, having that visionary mindset and being able to see things for what it could be, not for what it is, is not as, like, you're a visionary, I'm a visionary, but there's only probably 20% of the population that's really visionaries, right?
Yeah.
The other 80% just sees it for what it is. Like, my wife looks at something, she's like, we're not buying this house, or we're not moving in here. I was like, well, just look at the bones, look at the frame. Like, everything else can be changed.
Yeah.
Change the colors, we can change the flooring, we can change the paint, we can change the fixtures, we can do all that stuff. But, like, look at the location. The location's amazing.
Yeah.
Look at the views and all, like, that stuff that cannot be changed, but everything else can be. But it's hard for a lot of people to look past some of those things. And so you would redesign this. We'll do a walk around, but I think part of that is, like, look at, we're technically in an alley between two buildings right now. And it's all set up. There's a cool bar area. You got these awesome tables. There's plants all over the place, and it doesn't feel like you're hanging out in an alley. It feels like this kind of urban, trendy, sustainable vibe, right? That you get in a New York City, or that you get in some of those urban type settings, and you're taking an unused space in most capacities and making it a very awesome and usable space.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing it for what it can be, not for what it is. I think that's from what I've gathered from our conversation on last episode and this one, is like, you're very good at that. You have a good forward thinking of, like, what the space could be. So you came in here, you redesigned aesthetically what it could be, didn't have to invest all the dollars that it was before. The other thing is, you have this awesome Meeting Street address, but you're not necessarily fronted on Meeting Street.
Yeah.
You're kind of in the back part of a Meeting Street building, so I would think the price per square foot on rent is not nearly what it would be if you had that.
Yeah.
So it's a smart business decision where you've got this awesome address on all the marketing and everything, and you got the big ass signage on the side of the building. We'll show that, and but they just got to walk around the corner in order to gain access to it. It's just a smart business move that you made.
Yeah. And it has parking, which is one of the biggest bonuses, because it's like there's very few places downtown, especially, that you can just pop into and know you're going to have parking, and that it's free. And okay, yes, that has been somewhat of a challenge, not being directly on the street, but I mean, we're now a year in, and people are getting used to that we're here, and the word is getting out and all of that. And so it's like, things are always going to take some time, but yeah, again, those assets, like having parking when not many places downtown do. I prefer this little, like, quaint area that you still have people walking through, like, on their way to somewhere else, and they're always going to look in. They're always going to have this curious nature. But because it is this alley, it's like you're held back here. It's like, it is an oasis.
It's a little bit of an escape from the busyness of the street and all that stuff.
Totally.
And going back to your point on the parking, it's probably the most overlooked asset of a space when people are going out. Like, I was going to buy this awesome mansion over on East Bay, big historical mansion from 1800, 11 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms. I was going to do this Airbnb, an event space, and guess what? It had 2 parking spaces. It's like, how do you host something? And I couldn't get more parking space unless I had to go and sign a long-term lease with something that still wasn't that convenient, still, like, down the street a couple blocks. And it was just, it ruined the opportunity to then buy that and utilize that space because of the parking was not existent. And, if you don't, I think it's one of those things, you've been in the business a little bit and you understand how important that is. But I think it's overlooked a lot by a lot of business owners, especially brick and mortar business owners. So that's huge for what you've been able to do here. And then the other thing is, like, I would think that your business, because it was already like a word of mouth, and like you didn't have a retail location. You didn't.
Yeah.
It was everything was being marketed as if there is no retail location. Anyways, you don't need to be front and center, being on the main road because you already have that following of people who are buying your product. Without that, and so it allows you where somebody else, they need the location, and that visibility. You've got kind of edge up on that because you don't necessarily need it because you already have that customer base. So
Totally.
I think it makes sense. I think it's a great location and a great setup that you've created here. Tell me a little bit about the Charleston Commercial Kitchen.
Well, there was a couple reasons that I got into it. It was ATLYSS was growing, and the commissary kitchen that we were actually at, the price point that we were paying and everything, and just the space that we needed, it was that fixed cost was, it was not negatively affecting us at the time, but we just didn't have the ability to grow. That was the biggest thing. It was like, we can't grow in this location any more than we already have. So we had to find our own space. And so I started looking, and it was just kind of at the last moment, this space, it had been on the market, had gone off, was under contract with someone, and then I reached out because I sold the baby food of the woman that managed the building at the time, and I reached out to her, and I don't know what I was talking to her about, but it was something. She was like, oh, I manage the Charleston Commercial Kitchen. I was like, no way, I was trying to buy that, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, well, it's back on the market. They haven't listed it yet, but it's going back on. And I was like, can you get me my realtor in touch with the realtor? Because for me, it was a very smart business move to say, okay, this fixed cost is now going to essentially go away. Because if I can cover the rent from the rent of the other people during this time until we have grown to the point that if we needed to, not have as many tenants, or that business is very, it's a good business to be in.
Well, it's beautiful because you're taking a liability and turning it into an asset.
Yeah.
Right? How many of those expenses on your profit and loss statement can you look at and say, hey, my rent right now is a liability. I was renting an office space for my team when we were up in Cleveland, Ohio, and I was like, even if I just bought a house or something or an office, even if it was standalone, I could turn a liability into an asset, and I'm taking that same $2,000 a month or whatever I was paying in rent, and now I'm putting it towards a payment on a property that I own and I'll eventually pay off. And then I took it a step further, which is exactly what you've done, which is saying, hey, what if I had a multi-tenant location? So I have like a 9-unit office building, rent out 7 of the spaces, my team keeps 2 of those spaces, and we now get free office space, right? Like if we were 50% occupied, it pays for the whole note, and we'd have free office space, and then everything else is just gravy on top. And so that's the same thing. You've turned it from a liability into something that now you're owning instead of renting, and now it's actually making you money, and it's a great business.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So how many tenants, I guess, do you have there?
I think now we have 38.
38
Yeah.
different businesses utilizing that kitchen.
Yeah, and I have, because the woman that was running it, she was not running it well, and she also, I don't think, was in that business, and so she didn't understand the needs of the tenants.
Good point.
So when I went in there, I looked around and I was like, okay, well, I understand that you guys aren't paying a certain amount for rent, but you're also not receiving these supplies and have certain equipment that's going to make your life easier. Would you pay more? And every single one, yeah, of course. And so I just went in, changed essentially how it was being run, and have basically tripled what she was doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did you attract those other chefs and restaurateurs in order to come in and do that? Was it just word of mouth, people that you knew, and just kind of a small knit group?
I mean, The beautiful thing is when I went in, there was already a group of tenants. Like it came with the tenants.
So that had this safety of a little bit of a turnkey factor part of it, and then you were able to grow from there.
Totally.
That's awesome. That's exciting, right? And so you like the real estate side of things?
I love real estate. I bought my first residential property, rental property back in November, and hoping soon I want to buy like a quadruplex or multifamily home, or possibly another commercial space. So we'll see.
I love it. Yeah. No, I mean it's a different business though, right? Like
100%.
it's like, oh hey, because I walked by an apartment building or I've lived in an apartment building, can I own an apartment? Well, yeah, but it's another business. It's not as passive, right, as a lot of people think it's going to be.
No, constantly like tenant. Yeah.
And so you got to figure out, same thing. How do you get through that hell zone of like 1 to 50 units? It's kind of tough because you're making money. You got proof of concept, but it's not enough to like hire out a bunch of people and build out a team, and so it's still kind of on you. But if you can kind of jump past that and get to a certain revenue amount where, hey, instead of me paying 10% to a management company, I can take that 10% of $50,000 a month in rents. That's $5,000. You can probably hire somebody, a property manager, for $5,000 a month to help out with property management, and then you maintain a little bit more control over it. And there's a lot of good things. So it's like, I think there's a lot of businesses though. It's you make a few $100,000 in revenue, and you've got this proof of concept, and it's a good lifestyle kind of a business, but it's on you, right? You have to be doing it.
Yeah.
And then you grow beyond that, and you get to that $1 million to $2 million in revenue, or whatever that looks like. Maybe high hundreds of thousands to a couple $1 million, and that's like a really tough place to be in business because you got overhead, and you got staff, and you have real potential, but you're like not enough.
Real stress.
Exactly, but it's not enough to hire like executives and really build it out and take on these big overheads and stuff like that of a property or owning assets and stuff. And so it's like, how do you get through that? And I think that's a lot of the tough part of entrepreneurship, because people get there and they're like, fuck this, I'm not doing that. Let me scale back to where I was before. But if you can push through that, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and a bigger business can a lot of times be less work, less stress, less headache, less liability, more time that you can have if you can push through that hell zone of that couple $1 million. It's really, really hard, but how do I get through it, right? But knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So, all right, here's what I like to do. I want to take a tour of the facility and look at the menu and ask you some questions and talk a little bit more about what were some of the growth constraints that you faced and how you kind of pushed through that. Sound good?
Cool.
Let's do it. All right, Jenny, so talk to me about, we're going to go inside in a minute, but like this is the entranceway. It's between two buildings. There's a stairwell here, and most people would not turn this into, but like it's an awesome space to just come and have a sandwich and have a drink and hang out. Talk to me a little bit about the design and the compost, like all of it. Let's talk about all of it.
Yeah, well, so we have the two entrances. It's kind of, and it's neat because there's the parking on both sides, but what the beautiful thing is like one of our greatest marketing assets, for instance, is just that sandwich sign, like that sandwich board sign that's out there. It's because people are constantly going to Sherwin-Williams, the UPS store, there's the coffee shop next door now, and they just see the sign and they're curious by nature.
And they're that looks like a good sandwich.
They're like, what is this place? So yeah, we just, I don't know.
Brilliant.
I think that's
how much did that sign cost?
That sign costs $68.
$68 sign.
Yeah.
Doesn't take any personnel or variable cost on an ongoing basis, and you put it out there, and it's just constant people coming in here because you have all these other different businesses, and it's just an arrow with an awesome sandwich on it.
Yeah. So yes, easy. It is an alleyway, but you think an alleyway is a space to get you to somewhere else. So why not, we talked about pausing to like get through the energy, to move through those hard times. Like we're all walking somewhere, or we're all going somewhere. Why not make the journey have a beautiful place that you can pause
I love it.
in the in-between. So
I love that.
this is the beautiful in-between pause.
You got the string lights up.
Yeah,
This awesome mural over here on the side,
mural.
which
we
you guys are
have,
expanding on, right?
yes, plants. You know, the environment. All of that is extremely important to me. It's the foundation of ATLYSS is sustainability, regenerating the earth through regenerative practices. So working with farms that give back to the soil by composting. So to some people, this might be an eyesore, and to my aesthetic aspect of my brain, it slightly is. But to the passionate part of me, I think it's important for it to be front and center. And composting is a simple thing where
Well,
it's just
I was going to ask, like, why not put the plant on this side and put the compost behind it? Because you want to make it very known that, hey, we compost and we live what we talk about.
Yeah. Which we're probably going to, not probably, we are getting a different reciprocal system over here. So it will show like composting, recycling, trash. So in that circumstance, we probably will.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Move it
over there. It's not by anybody's table, and
but
it's still, really,
but in the
really
meantime,
highlighted.
it was like, hey, we want to emphasize the importance of this, because again, going back to that, we don't know that which we don't know. I think that a lot of people, like I was blessed to grow up in a way where we had a huge backyard garden, and my dad raised bees, and we had chickens, and
cool.
a huge composting pile, and all of this, and like, to me, I'm like, how do you not know? Like, how do you not do that? Like, why is that not important to you? And I had to take one of those moments of pause to be like, oh, well, if they've never experienced it, if it was never taught to them, they didn't understand the importance at a young age, you can't be mad because they don't know about it. So
it's like somebody who didn't grow up playing soccer. Like, I don't know what the rules are. I don't know whatever that is. It's like, because it just didn't grow up doing it. You know, It's the same thing. And it's one of those things, like so I own some land outside of, like, in Beaufort, South Carolina, and we got a bunch of goats, and I got a bunch of chickens. They all got eaten by the eagles and stuff, though, about 60 of them. Like, they're all gone. Oh, wow. But I think now that I got a donkey and some goats and some sheep, I think they're going to, like, kind of protect the chickens. So I'm thinking about getting chickens again. But anyways, it's like, I don't know, it's cool for the kids to see it, and it's cool for them to experience it, because I didn't experience anything like that growing up. So as you're talking about it, it's like, man, I wish I could do that, but I don't even know where to get educated on any of that kind of stuff, you know?
Well, so we try to educate, like, that's one of the things that we do. We educate everybody that walks in the door. We ask them, how'd you hear about us? Share about our mission, our concepts, about all of the other local businesses and farms that we work with, and then as well as about the composting. I'm truly advocating for Charleston to get curbside composting, but in the meantime, for anybody interested, there's a service called Compost Now, which is a weekly service, which is really cool. They come, give you a new bucket every week. It's very inexpensive. I think it's like $7 a week to get a bucket. You get a composting bank. So at the end of the year, you can cash in and get composting, or you can donate it to a local shared garden. Or there's services like Smart Recycling that do it for large businesses. And then there's pilot programs all around the city, which are free.
And it's like, when I studied abroad in Europe, and they had 3 trash cans, right? There was a trash can, there was a recycling can, there was a compost can.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was 20 years old, and I'd go there and I'd just start throwing stuff, whatever. And it'd be like, the guy who was our host family is like, no, this goes over here, this goes da da da. And he's like, point. I was like, well, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Because it's just not common here, you know? Like, it kind of became, like, recycling became common probably in like the 90s or whatever, but composting just not common unless you're, I think, in the food business and you, like, in the sustainable, arts and a lot of that kind of stuff. It's not commonplace, and it should be, because it's easy to do. It's just one more can, you know?
Yeah, well, let's go take a look inside. So yeah, we have this huge mural. We have this great space where you can come and hang out, sit at the bar. All of the plants. We got a live living wall over here, and then you walk inside, say hey. This is a grab and go.
You're on
case.
TV. Smile. Smile big.
The lights don't seem very bright right now. So the grab and go, as you can see, we work in congruence with our weekly meal delivery service. Right now it's looking a little sparse because it's Wednesday and it gets stocked on Monday. So Monday and Tuesday people come in. Sometimes by Tuesday we're completely sold out. They come stock their fridge for the week, or just come get a salad and we mix it up for them for lunch. And then we have the frozen case over here where they can come and get local meat. And we have things like bone broth and vegan patties in there. And then we are waiting for our Wishbone Heritage Farms, where the farm where we get our eggs and the meat from. He's coming.
That's local?
Yes. He's coming on tomorrow, Thursday, so we're currently sold out of eggs, but we also get fresh sourdough bread that also goes really quickly. And then we have other local food artisans products, is everything that we don't make ourselves is what we carry. So brands like Dahlia Sophia and Fizza, Small Seed Bar, A-Dash, Muffin Drop, Saltwater and Sourdough, Radical Bread Co., Low Country Kettle Chips, Mabel Mays, Vibe Up, like Sober Mesa Salsa, just trying to, in congruence with being part of that sustainability.
And supporting other local business. Like,
yeah.
I had Holly from Small Seed on, and like the owner of A-Dash coming on, and it's really cool to see. And you know, I think bringing everything all together is your passion comes forth, right? And so
Totally.
It's more than a sandwich. It's more than a salad when somebody comes in here. It's actually sustainability. It's supporting local businesses. It's supporting farm raised. It's giving back to the earth. It's all those things. So it's like, oh, well, I'm okay, right, paying an extra couple dollars because I know how the food was sourced, and I know it's healthier. I know it doesn't have all the different chemicals and antibiotics and all the other crazy stuff that's out there in majority of the grocery stores, and you're getting real good quality food when you come in here, and that you know, keeps people coming back too.
Totally. Yeah. So then we have, this is our space. As you can see, it's quite small, very quaint. So inside we just have
efficient. We call that efficient.
Yes, efficient. But we have sandwiches and wraps, and then fresh pressed juices. We have a couple different toasts, breakfast burrito, smoothies, and then all of our functional beverages. So we don't serve coffee because we have the coffee shop next door. But we do have functional beverages that have adaptogens in them.
Got it.
So to work with your adrenals versus like stressing them, which coffee does.
Right.
Yeah.
So like a dash, it
Awesome,
has
yeah.
adaptogens, and so explain what that is, right? Because it's really a newer concept for a lot of folks.
Totally. So A-Dash has ashwagandha in it. Ashwagandha helps to
It's a mushroom.
calm. Is ashwagandha a
I
mushroom?
think it is, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe it's
I
not.
don't,
Sounds like a mushroom.
I think it's a root.
Okay, it's a root.
But it works to calm your nervous system. Putting it with the coffee, it makes it so you don't get that high and like super jittery.
Yep.
That's why I love drinking her brand, because it's like I can have that in the afternoon. If I don't have one of our adrenal mocktails, I'll drink one of her coffees because I know I'm not going to crash. I know I'm not going to all of a sudden feel like I'm on literal crack, which I love.
Caffeine
cold,
does that to me too.
Yeah, like all of a sudden, some days, I might need that like extreme little jump, but most days I realize that I don't, and it's actually just stressing my nerves, and it's making it so with all of the whatever I have going on in the day, it's probably going to make it worse than
it
help.
exacerbates however else you're feeling.
Yeah.
Tell me about what are the functional beverages?
The functional beverages we have, so yerba mate, that's from South America. or mates from South America. The superfood chai latte. We put Cheetah Latte, which is another
What do these
local
do they
brand.
taste like teas, or does it taste like a chai tea?
So the chai is really, really good. People love it. It has ginger and turmeric in there, and then we don't have any cow's milk. We only have nut milk here. But I drink it with oat milk, and it's like super creamy but light and refreshing. And very flavorful. And then the Cheetah Latte that goes into it is a blend of a bunch of different mushrooms to help with focus and energy and all different things. The Adrenal Mocktail is coconut water, our immunity booster juice, which has cold pressed orange, green apple, turmeric, ginger, carrot, and celery in it. And then it gets sea salt, so it's calcium, sodium, and potassium. So again, it's
So that way your body can absorb it all
Yes.
properly. Because I think that's one of those things I've learned over time is like you can't just have the soda, you need the potassium to go with it, and then what's the other one? Potassium, sodium, calcium.
Yeah.
Right, because if you have a little bit too much of one or the other, like they all have to kind of go together, right?
Science.
Science.
Yeah, no, a good friend of mine, Wes Carter, we just did a really awesome event for the Low Country Land Trust with them out at their place. And Wes, if you have ever met Wes, he's like a magical being, but he's like just like constantly going, you know, he's again visionary. Like he has this project called the New Earth Project, and he's just on the go a lot. And he had just gotten back from just being on the road and doing things, and he was like, I am so tired. And then he came to me at the end of the event, and he was like, what was that thing?
Yeah.
What was that drink? And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, that adrenal drink, the orange one. And I was like, oh, the adrenal mocktail. And I told him, and he was like, I drank that, the turmeric something, I don't know what it was. He's like, I was cured.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, it helps. It
That's
gives
awesome.
It's like hydrating you. It's, you know, putting that sodium back in that if you've been sweating a lot. So it's just a really wonderful thing. Sandwiches wise, we have the Stupid Good Sammy, which is definitely our most popular. It's just, who doesn't love a turkey sandwich? But this is just with the alfalfa sprouts and the pickled red onion and the fresh dill. It's just, people literally say they dream of that sandwich. And then just a couple others. We tried to, again, for sustainability reasons, make it a compact menu that we could easily execute and that all work together. So,
Jenny, this is awesome. I'm gonna order some food to go, right?
Cool.
And it's probably these sourdough triple chocolate cookies too, because they're obviously healthy.
no, here, wait. I have something better. You gotta, so these are our vegan Snickers,
Oh.
which are gluten-free, vegan, sugar-free. One of our most popular items.
Oh, this is gonna mess up. I was talking with Ben Azadi, and I was like trying to do this like low carb, low sugar thing for a week, and
Just has dates.
It's all your fault.
Only sweetened with dates.
oh yeah. It tastes like a Snickers, but like a good Snickers, not like a
Yeah.
fake sugary Snickers.
Yeah.
It was
Like
really
when I eat it,
good. I love the dark
my-
chocolate.
my body is like, thank you. Mm-hmm. It's giving it, it's real food. It's giving it what it needs, which is basically what our whole concept is about. Is that healthy food doesn't have to be scary or boring or whatever negative thoughts you might have on it. It can be easy. It can be delicious.
It doesn't have to taste like
vibrant.
garbage, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
have to taste like cardboard. It can actually be good, healthy stuff
Yeah.
that tastes fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what. This has been amazing.
Yeah.
That's such a fun time getting to know you better, hearing about your story, seeing your location here, and it's like it's
These are for
obvious. Oh, thank you. And it's obvious why you guys have had the success that you've had. What does the next 12 to 24 months look like? Kind of goals, ambitions. Like what would you guys like to see?
So we right now are just honing in on our wholesale catering, the meal delivery, and I mean as you know, the meal with any business, you always have to be working for 6 months from now. But it's just continuing to get the word out there about the cafe, continuing to educate people on our mission, and
you're doing all the right things.
Working on the wholesale, because we've just had so many people, especially by opening this space, come from out of town that may not live that far, like Greenville or something. They're like, please, can you sell some of your items there? I know that shipping is not in your guys' mission or in congruence with it, but like, will you come and have some of your products somewhere where I can go and grab them? So that is definitely what is my focus at this point.
The next problem to solve or hurdle to overcome in order to spread the love.
Yeah.
So I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're a rock star. I loved hearing your story.
Likewise, great chatting. Bye.
Hey, hopefully you guys learned a couple of things, learned a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey, learned some key takeaways. I think what Jenny does is she's really fantastic at building this following and a cause and a mission behind her product. It's not just a product or a service that she's selling, it's actually getting behind it and sharing that all the time with her customer base. And that customer base, it breeds a lot of loyalty and return customers, and which is why she's had so much success with the ATLYSS Food Collective. So if you're not following them, make sure you follow them. They're putting out a ton of great content and a lot of great educational stuff on what you should be putting into your body and how you can give back and live the sustainable lifestyle that their mission really breeds. And so hopefully you got some great takeaways. Put it in the comments section below. I'd love to see it. And if you could like the video, it would be a huge help to us. So appreciate you. I'll see you next week on the Legacy Podcast.